Carl is forced to take therapy from a heartbreak counselor, Maria, after he disses her in an article. They both hate each other, but bond over their common hatred for romantic symbols and gestures. In an interview, Maria describes how empty she felt when her partner left her. She started feeling hopeless and was tired of complaining all the time. Everyone expects people to get over a breakup in a few months. She couldn't, so she decided to create an agency to help people in similar situations. Turgay starts looking at the seminars and coaching sessions offered by the Heartbreak Agency. Maria thinks it's most important to be there for the people experiencing heartbreak. Sanch gets irritated by Carl's snoring and decides to break up with him. Carl thinks their relationship is going great, but Sanch feels it has become all about food and sex for them. He tries to change her mind by offering to take a shower with her. Sanch feels her heartbreak counselor, who thinks Carl is incapable of love, is right. Carl seems confused as he stands outside her door. He asks for his toy car back, but she shuts the door on his face. Carl's roommate, Anton, wonders why he's back so soon. He usually ends things when they get serious, but this time, Santi broke it off with him. Carl claims people have dumped him before, but he doesn't cry about it. More than Sanche, he blames the counselor who made her think he's not good enough for her. Carl watches Maria's video, and he thinks she's breaking up people because she can't get laid. His boss, Adam, at the Splash magazine, thinks she's a great study for a story. Carl knows Maria used to be a PR manager and understands marketing. He feels she's creating emotional needs through her agency and fixing them for a lot of money. Adam is tired of Carl, always pitching controversial articles that could result in lawsuits. He asks Carl to take a more general approach and write about ways to overcome heartbreak. Carl thinks Maria is a fraud, so Adam reluctantly agrees to let him work on his angle if he gets a great interview. Carl thinks of Maria as the North Korea of lonely hearts, which she overhears, but she welcomes him warmly. He thinks the personality cult in her office is coming off as very obsessive. He asks for permission to record their conversation. She explains their agency works for people with broken hearts who are against the idea of seeing the therapist. She starts explaining her story, but Carl already knows her background from her interviews. He is more interested in how the process works. He wonders what happens when someone who is already in a relationship comes to her. Maria thinks such clients are common because heartbreaks can happen even during relationships. He wants to make her admit that she advises people to break up with their partners. She still claims they encourage a process without specific advice. She admits some people are incapable of love. He wonders how she can judge a person's partner who she hasn't even met. He feels it's unfair she's passing a verdict without meeting them. She still claims they never give a verdict and only advice. While leaving her office, he spots his toy car and takes it from the box. Carl reads out his draft to Anton, which seems very bold to him. When Carl releases the article, everyone including Maria and Adam seem worried about its contents. He has projected Maria as a savvy self-promoter who makes money off depressed women. He addresses women as sisses and thinks there are other ways to deal with emotional wounds. He calls Maria a narcissist and thinks women are making a mistake by throwing money at her. Adam calls Carl to his office to let him go. He is ashamed of what Carl came up with when the article had so much potential. He thinks Carl's views on gender are very crusty, and he can't get away with such a patriarchal point of view. He wants these issues to be dealt with sensitively. Carl has also posted this article without Adam's permission. He fires Carl without a reference because he thinks it's a problem that Carl doesn't see an issue with this article. Maria comes over to the office to talk to Carl. She knows he had a personal angle because of which he wrote the article. She also knows he has taken out the car from the Let It Go box. The box is used for clients who release an item that reminds them of their bad relationship. Maria also thinks he only did the interview because he thinks her agency is responsible for his breakup. Carl admits that things were great with Sanj till she spoke to Maria. She hopes he finds out the real reason and offers support to get over the loss of his relationship. Maria discusses the good and bad parts about her day with her daughter, Hetty. Both their best parts involve getting ice cream with each other. Hetty remembers she forgot about her dad's cactus and drags Maria to the study to water it. They pack breakfast for each other. When Maria gets a call from Hetty's dad, Olaf, she's dropping Hetty to school and gives the phone so she can talk to him. Carl struggles to get a job because no one wants to hire a misogynist like him. Anton is struggling to figure out if he likes men or women, but his date for that night rejects him from the first look itself. Maria knows people don't eat after heartbreak and offers Sybil some cake. Maria is glad she took the first step. Sybil is worried because it seems difficult to start all over again at the age of 41. While talking to job prospects, Carl continues to make it sound like Splash wasn't a good fit for him, but he knows no one wants him because of the sexist article. He goes back to Adam when he doesn't get anything else. He is willing to make an apology and write anything he wants. Adam now wants him to write a proper article about heartbreak. If he wants his job back, it needs to be done with sincerity, and he's supposed to go to therapy with Maria for it. In a group session, Sybil discusses how tough it is to tell her parents they won't have grandchildren. Turgay feels his ex, Timea, is his weakness. He compares it to Superman's weakness being kryptonite. He feels bad Timea ghosted him on MySpace too, which she hasn't used in years. Suzanne feels this kind of false hope hurts even more. Carl jokes about him getting over this because he's Superman. Maria asks Carl to share his feelings, so he begins by how his girlfriend dumped him, but he feels weird when the group looks at him with sympathy because he thinks they're all crazy. He feels like they should be celebrating because everyone there is single. When he insults Turgay by calling him a stalker, Maria takes him outside for a word. She knows everything is funny to him, but asks him to not disrupt the progress her group has made. When Carl continues to make fun of them, Maria suggests he should leave. This is Carl's last chance, so he claims he respects all women. He begs her to let him keep learning and promises to never insult the group again. She agrees to let him stick around if he also attends the whole program. Carl joins the Heartbreak retreat, and the receptionist gives him the self-care products he needs. He's getting all the marketing merchandise because he has been registered for the full intensive program. Martha, who teaches with Maria at the agency, makes them all paint. Carl doesn't see any point of it when Maria is also not around. Martha claims she had an emergency and asks Carl to try the self-reflection practice like everyone. Carl is eyeing the bartender when Turgay comes to sit with him. He claims he went through a rough patch when his university started making job cuts last year. Now, he wishes for that rough patch again because it's better than Tymia leaving him. Carl doesn't think he can get over her if he keeps mentioning her. He has written an article about how long it takes for people to get over relationships. He thinks Turgay should try someone who's his opposite, but he doesn't think he can get anyone better than Tymia. Carl's next plan is alcohol, so he gets everyone drunk around the bonfire. Turgay moves away from the group because he just learned Tymia is getting married in 3 days. Carl asks Turgay to be a man and get Tymia back. Turgay knows no one can tell her what to do. She apparently told Turgay about the wedding, so he would stop calling her. But Carl thinks she mentioned it, so he would go there and break them up. Turgay refuses to do that to her, but tries to have fun with the group. Maria is dropping Hetty to her grandmother's house before the retreat. She has told a new patient, Zolt, that someone else dropped out. She wants to cover his bill because he hasn't been able to work since his breakup. She asks Martha if Carl has given up yet, but he seems to be getting along great with everyone. At the review session, she learns that Carl advised Sybil to masturbate and think of people she doesn't like. She finds it weird, but she's happy she laughed again. He has even suggested a strategy for Turgay to get over Tymia by pretending he's over her already. Even Suzanne seems to love him, so Maria gets the hang of what's going on. She asks Carl to let the professionals handle the therapy since they are trained to do this. Carl still believes people don't need therapists for breakup. He understands that Maria gets money out of all this, but he claims it's better if he is helping people for free. She reminds him that all the drinks he got are not free. Maria wants the group to know a relationship isn't the only source of happiness. She asks them to find pleasure in other things. Suzanne suggests a pair of jeans that fit, and Turgay suggests good food. Zolt seems to get happiness from dancing, and Sybil likes penguins. Carl claims he gets happiness from uncommitted sex, and claims he loves penguins too. When he's alone with Maria, he claims he wasn't trying to sabotage the group because he genuinely loves penguins. She points out the part about uncommitted sex. She feels it looks like he's afraid of commitment. He thinks he's more like Han Solo, but she reminds him he got together with Leia. They had a kid, struggled, and broke up. He still wants her to understand there's nothing wrong with just having sex with someone. She wonders what happens when his kind of sex leads to someone falling in love. They mostly disagree with each other, but feel like love makes people unhappy. He tries to write an article about painting after heartbreak, but realizes that might be insensitive too. Maria finds Sybil crying by the pool and joins her. She tries to make her feel better by suggesting meditation or talking. Sybil is thinking of swimming, so Maria jumps into the pool to make her laugh. Hetty asks Maria to pick her up from her grandma's place. Her friends are going skating every day, and she feels like she's missing out. Maria suggests she can find a skate park nearby, but Hetty gets angry. Carl is impressed that she's smoking and joins her. She fills him in about what Hetty wants and how she never uses the skating gear she bought her. Carl can easily tell Maria knows nothing about skate parks. He feels knowing about this earlier would have made the trip better. Maria still thinks he's not making any real effort and keeps acting like a kid. She's trying to explain to everyone that love needs effort, but people just want their one true love back. He agrees it's an idea that's only made to sell flowers and cards. She knows a flawless love happens very rarely. She feels sad that people get unhappy because they expect it in their relationships. Maria admits she doesn't believe in big, romantic gestures because of her work. She still has to pretend she does. She's trying to make her clients feel happy with themselves, but Carl knows no one wants to be alone anymore. He thinks romantic comedies have spoiled love for everyone. They both make fun of the pointless romantic gestures and annoying love songs. They also hate that people love sunsets, which happen all the time. They hear a guy playing violin, and Carl wants to pay him to leave. For him, it feels refreshing to find a woman like her, who thinks these romantic gestures are stupid. Maria pays the man so he can torture Carl with a love song. Everyone at breakfast is worried about Turgay missing. Carl notices from the poster that Timia's wedding is happening there too. He knows Turgay is going to try and stop it. Maria blames Carl for putting this idea in his head. They change to white for the wedding because Maria is determined to not ruin the progress Turgay has made. They make way as Timia walks down the aisle and joins Egbert. Maria looks around for Turgay, but Carl spots him first. He doesn't want Maria to know where he is because he wants to see how this plays out. Maria is sure he will be humiliated. When she finally spots him, she tries to call out to him. He doesn't listen, so she tries to move towards him. She's forced to sit down when she drops something and makes a lot of noise. Maria and Carl realize a guest's hat is on fire because of what she dropped. They try to put it out, but it gets worse. When Turgay gets up to object to the wedding, Maria shouts and alerts everyone to the fire. Timia is very angry when water starts spraying all over the church to stop the fire. An officer at the police station flirts with Carl since this is his hometown. Maria knows he will run away when he learns the woman wants kids. Carl doesn't want her therapist advice and claims he's only doing this to get his job back. His mother comes to bail them out and invites them home. Carl wants to go to a hotel, but Maria wants to know more about him through his mom. She claims they met through work, but his mom thinks they are sleeping together. Carl's room looks like a shrine to the 90s. She finds a box with keepsakes and finds a love letter he wrote. She jokes about how they let him become a writer. She also finds a box with a ring, which Carl doesn't want to talk about. Carl's mom is glad to see Maria because he usually lets all the nice girls go because of commitment issues. She blames her divorce for Carl's issues because he was only 16 then. She invites Maria for her stand-up set where she makes marriage jokes. Maria wonders about the ring box. Carl explains that he was in love with Claudia and they were dating since they were 14. He asked her to marry him after college, but she got scared of the ring and broke up. He understands that she didn't want to settle for her first boyfriend, but she was still the love of his life. He claims to be over it and doesn't know why he still has the ring. Maria is glad they took this trip because she finally understands the traumatic event that changed Carl. He gets offended and thinks her concern is a publicity stunt. She is unable to sleep in her bed, so is forced to sleep next to him. He asks her to not worry because he's not attracted to her. Maria claims none of what she does is a marketing strategy. Olaf broke her heart when he left her to do penguin research. They find it funny because Carl loves penguins. Maria explains that Olaf is a zoologist and is trying to help penguins since they're endangered. He's traveling the world while she takes care of Hetty alone. Carl feels she's doing a good job. Apart from being a know-it-all, Maria claims they made a decision to stay apart for Hetty, but she always wonders what will happen if he comes back and wants to stay with them. Carl feels he would personally let the planet get destroyed to be with someone he loves. She teases him about going soft, and they start kissing before they know it. The next morning, Carl touches her face lovingly as she sleeps. The driver mistakes them for a couple, but Maria clarifies that she is Carl's therapist. When he finds it funny, she apologizes for what happened between them. He doesn't want an apology because he loved it. Maria knows starting anything with Carl is a bad idea because there's no future. Martha thinks she is just finding excuses to not meet someone new. She feels Carl and Maria are very similar in many ways. Maria doesn't believe that and doesn't want to risk losing the balance she built after Olaf left. She checks out from the retreat and informs Carl that Martha will take over for her. He asks her to not be awkward and ignore him just because they had sex. She agrees it was only physical for her too and feels relieved they're on the same page. Anton catches Carl staring at the sunset. Carl is thinking about Maria and wondering if she's hating it too. Anton teases him about being in love. Carl turns up at Maria's apartment and introduces himself to Hetty. She talks to him as her client, but Carl and Hetty bond over her ridiculous cardboard cutouts. When she leaves for the skate park, Carl wonders if they can stop ignoring each other because of the sex. She invites him over for coffee, but they end up having sex again. Carl doesn't let her turn off a love song when they're at it. He calls later to ask for her plans, but she's busy with some work and doesn't have a babysitter for Hetty. He offers to babysit and claims he's great with kids. He tries to Google Hetty's symptoms since she's sick. It shows a prostate issue or possible heartbreak. From her expression, he can tell she has fallen for a skater boy. She admits she has a crush on Oscar, who has the greenest eyes. He doesn't notice her, so Carl plans to teach her. Carl shows her how to use the skateboard, but she crashes into something while trying. As he patches her up, he jokes about being stupid enough to let her skateboard in the living room, but he reminds her this is about more than skating. He takes her to the skate park in style and asks about Oscar. He gives her his board so she looks cooler and asks her to pose around Oscar. He finally notices her because of the board, and Carl feels proud. Maria comes back home to find Carl bonding with Hetty. She's feeling much better, and they're making homemade pizzas. They play a card game and watch TV together too. Sybil finally agrees to move on and drops an item in the Let It Go box. Timia turns up at Turgay's door and kisses him. Maria and Carl start hanging out with his friends and don't shy away from holding hands. Carl brags about Turgay and Timia getting back together and claims he made it happen. He has packed dessert for Hetty because he promised her breakfast. Maria thinks he is great with her, but Carl thinks Hetty is naturally a great kid. She asks him to accept the compliment because it's not easy for her to say all this. She's an introvert and has heard someone like her needs extroverts to take care of them. Carl discusses his relationship with Anton. Maria also discusses with Martha how they're not defining what's going on. Carl thinks Maria surely knows how he feels about her. She wants to hear it from him, and he also decides to tell her the next day. He brings flowers to her and asks a man going to the building to hold the door for him. Carl holds it for his bags the next time, and they get into the same lift. When he stops outside Maria's house, Carl feels confused. He claims Maria is his girlfriend and thinks Carl is a client. Carl claims the gift of flowers is a way to thank her for therapy. She's not at home, so Carl leaves the flowers with him. Carl finds Hetty on his way down and informs her that he's going away for a while. He can't explain his feelings, but hugs her. When he hears Hetty addressing the man as her dad, he realizes he ran into Olaf. Maria sits with Olaf in the house, where he tells her about getting a job at a biodiversity lab nearby. He regrets leaving her and Hetty, but she reminds him they both agreed it was for the greater good. Olaf finally thinks saving the world is no use if he can't even see his family. Maria clarifies that she met someone, so Olaf claims they don't have to decide anything yet. He suggests keeping both apartments because he wants to be near his family. Carl finds Anton hooking up with someone in his room again. Anton thinks she's the one, but Carl doesn't want to discuss it. That night, Maria keeps trying to call Carl, but he ignores her. Hetty and Maria pack lunches for each other, and Hetty has packed a lot of stuff for Olaf. She's excited about her father starting work nearby and him picking her up the whole week. This is her first birthday with her dad in the longest time, but she wants to invite Carl too. She mentions that Carl told her he will be gone for a while. She gets excited when Olaf comes to pick her up and wants to show him something. Maria discusses with Martha about what Carl mentioned to Hetty. She feels stupid for expecting anything because he has ghosted her. She felt like he had changed. She's confused about Olaf too and is considering giving him another chance. Carl hasn't moved from his bed in days, and Anton asks him to get up. He assures Carl that things will get better. Hetty loved everything about her day because her father is back. She has spoken to Oskar too, who heard his parents deciding to stay together because of him. Maria explains how parents sometimes put their kids' needs before their own. Hetty understands that it's okay for parents to be separate. She's glad her dad is back in town, even if it means he and Maria aren't together. Adam asks Carl not to waste his time and write the article he asked for. Carl seems confused, so Adam asks him to pull himself together and call him back. As Maria puts a penguin into the Let It Go box, Carl starts writing about heartbreak. He claims the people who don't believe in broken hearts are usually hit the hardest. Everyone he knows reads the article, and Maria even kicks her cardboard cutout. He writes about getting hurt and not knowing when the pain will end, but he also claims he knows it will heal and hopes people's hearts are big enough so they can let someone else in. Adam loves the article and hires Carl back. Maria is glad Olaf is there for Hetty, but establishes there's nothing between them. He understands and gives her a key so Hetty can visit anytime. Maria finally finds the flowers Carl left for her with a note that he can be her extrovert. She realizes the feelings are mutual and starts driving towards him. On her way, she gets a call from Turgay, who is hiding in the bathroom. He is broken up with Timea, who is threatening to break down the door and not taking the news well. He is scared about falling into the same pattern if he gets back with her. Maria reminds him that kryptonite is made up and there's no such thing. Turgay finally gets the strength to open the door. He threatens to call the police if Timea doesn't leave his apartment. Anton hopes a costume party will help cheer Carl up. Maria tuns up at the door and informs him about finding his card late. She asks him for a drink, but he refuses to go with her. He claims therapy has taught him that love is like skydiving. It's the greatest feeling in the world for some people, but they forget having a security like a parachute is also important. He thinks that's what differentiates skydiving from a plane crash, but he thinks she is the expert on love. She claims she's an amateur in her life and asks if it's okay for someone like her to screw up, but he doesn't think screw-ups can be allowed in skydiving. Carl is distracted at the party, but gets happy when he finds Zolt. He claims he has been staying away from roofs, but is still upset. He hasn't met anyone because he thinks what he had with Tom was destiny. He doesn't believe in coincidences. Carl tries to explain a big coincidence like him writing a shitty article about his therapist. It's also weird that he met Zolt when he took the same therapy from her again to get his life back, but he realizes something and introduces Zolt to Anton. They instantly vibe, and Carl leaves them to meet Maria. She seems to be in an intense situation with Timea, who is blaming Maria for brainwashing Turgay. Carl knocks Timea out and confesses his love for Maria. Before Maria can reply, Timea wakes up and knocks him out too. He is in pain when he gains consciousness, but is glad to see Maria with him. She kisses him and teases him about his wounds. They watch Hetty skateboarding and cheer her on. They hate how cheesy all this is, but love holding hands.